Thunder crackled across the neon-stained sky as Troy Marshall stared at his phone, thumb hovering over the glowing accept button. Rain hammered against his apartment window, distorting the cityscape into a blur of bleeding colors. The app's interface pulsed with an otherworldly blue light, its promise of unlimited possibilities almost hypnotic. "What else do I have to lose?" he muttered, glancing at the termination notice on his desk. The prestigious engineering firm he'd dedicated 5 years to had cut him loose without warning, citing corporate restructuring. Now at 32, he was watching his life's carefully constructed framework crumble. Troy grabbed his worn leather notebook, flipping through pages of technical sketches and personal observations until he reached a blank page. He jotted down the date in a single line. Sometimes the best decisions are the desperate ones. The app chirped impatiently. Troy took a deep breath and pressed accept. The screen flooded with dense text, contract clauses scrolling past faster than he could read. His finger moved to scroll back up, but a sharp pain in his temple made him wince. The signature line pulsed invitingly. "Fine," he growled, scrawling his digital signature. "Whatever gets me out of this mess." The moment he confirmed, his phone went dark. Troy frowned, tapping the screen. Nothing. He was about to remove the battery when a thunderous knock echoed through his apartment. Troy approached the door cautiously, peering through the peephole. The hallway appeared empty. Another knock, strong enough to rattle the hinges. He opened the door slowly, then froze. Standing before him was a woman, if she could be called that. Tall and athletic, she wore sleek combat armor that seemed to absorb light. But it was her skin that caught his attention. A deep, rich violet that seemed to shimmer. Golden eyes met his, and her full lips curved into a smile that was equal parts predatory and playful. "Greetings, Master Troy Marshall," she purred, her voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "I am Reyna, your contracted guardian and servant." She dropped into a graceful bow, her long silver-white hair cascading forward. Troy stumbled backward. "What? Who are you?" Reyna straightened, closing the door behind her with impossible speed. "As I said, I am your contracted servant. The terms were quite clear in the agreement you just signed." Her golden eyes sparkled with amusement. "Did you not read them?" "I dot." Troy's back hit the wall. "This isn't possible. You're not... You can't be... real." Reyna stepped closer, her movement fluid like liquid mercury. "I assure you, Master, I am quite real." To demonstrate, she raised her hand, and a sphere of shimmering energy materialized above her palm. "And I am completely at your service." Troy's engineering mind raced to process what he was seeing. "This is some kind of elaborate scam. Holographics, maybe, or..." Reyna laughed, the sound like crystal chimes. "Your skepticism is charming, but unnecessary." She gestured, and the energy sphere expanded into a holographic display of the contract he'd signed. "You are now my designated bearer. I am bound to protect and serve you, to enhance your natural abilities and..." Her smile turned mischievous. "To fulfill any other requirements you might have." "Requirements?" Troy's voice cracked. He cleared his throat, trying to maintain some semblance of control. "Look, I don't know what's going on here, but I didn't sign up for whatever this is." "On the contrary," Reyna zoomed in on a specific clause. "You quite literally did. Though I must admit, most bearers at least skim the terms first." She cocked her head, studying him with undisguised interest. "You're either very brave or very desperate. Which is it, I wonder?" Before Troy could answer, his phone suddenly sprang back to life, buzzing with notifications. He grabbed it, hoping for some explanation, but instead found a series of threatening messages from unknown numbers. "Contract detected. Unauthorized activation. Surrender the artifact." Reyna's playful demeanor vanished instantly. She moved with liquid grace to the window, her armor shifting and reconfiguring itself. "We have company, Master." "What?" Troy joined her at the window, peering down at the rain-slick street. Black SUVs were pulling up to the building, disgorging figures in tactical gear. "Who are they?" "Quantitech security forces." Reyna's voice hardened. "They've been hunting for the contract artifact for decades. And now they've found us." She turned to Troy, her golden eyes intense. "We need to leave. Now." "Leave! I can't just—" Troy's protest was cut short by the sound of boots in the hallway. Heavy footsteps approached his door. "No time to explain." Reyna's armor rippled, extending protective plates. She stepped between Troy and the door. "Stay behind me." The door exploded inward in a shower of splinters. Armed figures poured through the opening, weapons trained on them. Their leader, a woman in a sharp business suit, stepped forward. "Mr. Marshall," she said smoothly, "I'm Director Ivan from Quanta Tech. You've accidentally accessed corporate property. Hand over the contract artifact, and we can resolve this peacefully." "He will do no such thing." Reyna's voice carried a dangerous edge. "The contract is sealed. Any attempt to interfere will result in immediate defensive action." Ivan's smile turned cold. "So be it." She raised her hand. "Take them." The tactical team surged forward. Reyna moved like lightning, her body flowing between attacks with impossible grace. She deflected bullets with energy shields, tossed armored men aside like toys, and kept Troy protected behind her. "Master," she called over her shoulder, "I need your focus." "My what?" Troy ducked as a stray shot shattered his window. "Your emotion, your intent. The contract connects us. Feel it." Troy's heart pounded. This was insane, impossible, and yet he could feel something, a warmth in his chest, a connection to the violet-skinned warrior protecting him. On instinct, he reached out with that feeling. Reyna gasped as purple energy suddenly crackled around her. Her movements became even faster, her attacks stronger. She spun through the remaining attackers like a deadly dance, leaving them unconscious but alive. Avon backed toward the door, speaking rapidly into a communicator. "Subject is bonded. Repeat, contract is active. Initiate Protocol Omega." "Time to go." Reyna grabbed Troy's arm. He barely had time to snatch his notebook before she pulled him toward the broken window. "Do you trust me?" "What? No, I just met you." She grinned. "Good answer. But trust me anyway." Before Troy could protest, Reyna wrapped her arms around him and leaped through the window. They plummeted 20 stories toward the rain-soaked street, and Troy's scream was lost in the howling wind. But instead of death, energy bloomed around them. Reyna's armor transformed, sprouting crystalline wings that caught the air. They soared over the city, leaving the Quanta Tech forces behind. "What the hell is happening?" Troy shouted over the wind. "You signed a contract, Master." Reyna's eyes sparkled with excitement. "And now your life is going to get very, very interesting." As they flew through the neon canyon of skyscrapers, Troy realized with a sinking feeling that his simple hope for a better job opportunity had just catapulted him into something far more dangerous. And the violet-skinned warrior holding him seemed absolutely delighted about it. The city blurred beneath them as Reyna navigated between buildings with practiced ease. Rain pelted Troy's face, but he barely noticed, transfixed by the impossible situation he found himself in. The ground was impossibly far below, and yet somehow he wasn't as terrified as he should have been. "We need somewhere safe," Reyna said, banking around a corner. "Your apartment is compromised." Troy wiped rain from his eyes. "I have a workshop, old machine shop on the edge of the industrial district. Nobody knows about it." "Perfect." Reyna adjusted their course. "Directions?" As Troy guided them through the maze of buildings, he couldn't help but notice how naturally she held him, how her armor seemed to adapt to make him more comfortable despite their breakneck pace. The weird energy he'd felt during the fight still hummed between them, like a low electrical current. They landed in a narrow alley behind a deteriorating brick building. Reyna set Troy down gently, her crystalline wings folding back into her armor with fluid precision. She immediately took up a defensive position, scanning their surroundings. "This way." Troy led her to a rusty door, pulling out a key ring. His hands were shaking slightly as he unlocked it. "It's not much, but—" The workshop was a large open space filled with half-finished projects, tool benches, and various machines. Old blueprints and technical drawings covered one wall. A small living area occupied one corner, complete with a battered couch and mini-fridge. Reyna moved through the space with predatory grace, checking exits and sightlines. "Defensible, multiple escape routes. You choose well, Master." Stop calling me that. Troy ran his hands through his wet hair. Just stop. I need answers. Real ones. What exactly did I sign up for? Raina finished her inspection and turned to face him. In the workshop's harsh fluorescent lighting, her violet skin seemed to glow. The contract is ancient, predating your civilization. It creates a bond between a bearer, you, and a guardian, me. I am bound to protect and serve you, while you provide the emotional and spiritual energy that powers my abilities. That's, that's insane. Troy sank onto the couch. This morning I was worried about job interviews and now I'm being chased by corporate thugs because of some ancient alien contract? Oh, it's far worse than that. Raina perched on a workbench, crossing her legs with casual elegance. Quantatech is merely the surface threat. They believe the contract artifact is technology they can reverse engineer. They don't understand its true nature or power. Her golden eyes locked onto his. But they'll kill us both to get it. Wonderful. Troy pulled out his notebook, a habit when stressed. And I suppose returning the contract isn't an option? Raina's playful expression faltered. Number, the bond is permanent. If you try to break it, she looked away. I would cease to exist. The finality in her voice made Troy's chest tighten. He studied her, seeing past the confident facade to something more vulnerable. How many others? How many bearers have you had? None. She met his gaze again. You're my first, which makes you either very lucky or very unlucky, depending on how the next few days go. A small smile played at her lips. Though I must say, as far as first bearers go, you're not disappointing. Before Troy could respond, a distant explosion rocked the building. Raina was on her feet instantly, armor reconfiguring. They're faster than I expected, she growled. We need to move. Wait. Troy grabbed his notebook and a small duffel bag he kept packed for emergencies. If we're going to survive this, I need to understand how this bond works. How I did. Whatever I did back there. Raina's smile turned dangerous. Then I suggest you're a quick learner, Master Troy. Because your crash course in alien contract magic starts now. Another explosion, closer this time. Raina offered her hand. Shall we begin? Troy looked at her hand, violet fingers extended toward him. Everything logical and rational screamed at him to run the other way. Instead, he took her hand. Just Troy, he said. And yes, let's begin. The moment their hands connected, that strange energy surged between them again. Troy gasped as warmth spread up his arm, bringing with it an acute awareness of Raina's presence. Not just physically, but somehow deeper. That feeling, she said, pulling him toward the back exit, is the contract bond. The more you embrace it, the stronger we become. She paused, head tilting. They're surrounding the building, 6 teams, heavy weapons. Troy's mind raced, engineer's instincts kicking in. The basement. There's an old maintenance tunnel that connects to the subway system, but it's sealed. Not for long. Raina's free hand ignited with energy. They rushed down the metal stairs to the basement level, footsteps echoing off concrete walls. The sealed tunnel entrance was a solid steel door, heavily rusted. Voices shouted above them. Boots thundered on metal stairs. Focus on the bond, Raina instructed, raising her glowing hand. Picture the energy flowing through both of us, like a circuit completing. Troy closed his eyes, trying to grasp that elusive connection. He thought of electrical systems, of power flowing through perfectly designed pathways. The warmth in his chest intensified. Raina gasped. The energy around her hand tripled in intensity, turning from purple to brilliant gold. She pressed her palm to the door, and metal melted like butter. Now that, she grinned, is more like it. Your technical mind gives the energy structure, purpose. She kicked the molten door open. You're a natural. Freeze, a voice shouted from the stairs. Gunfire erupted, bullets sparking off Raina's hastily raised shield. Less complimenting, more running. Troy grabbed her arm, pulling her through the doorway. The tunnel beyond was pitch black and thick with decades of dust. Raina's armor illuminated their path with a soft glow. They ran through the darkness, the sounds of pursuit growing more distant. The tunnel seemed endless, branching occasionally into smaller passages. Wait! Troy pulled up short at an intersection. Something's wrong. The airflow ... A spotlight blazed to life ahead of them, then another behind. Armed figures emerged from side passages. They were surrounded. Director Avon stepped into view, looking immaculate despite their underground location. Impressive teamwork for a new Bond, but predictable. All these old tunnels are mapped in city records. She smiled coldly. Now shall we discuss terms? Reyna pushed Troy behind her, energy crackling around both of them. The only terms are these: leave us alone, or I start removing limbs. Always so violent, Avon sighed. She pulled out a small device, pressing a button. A high-pitched whine filled the tunnel. Troy clutched his head as pain lanced through his skull. Beside him, Reyna stumbled, her armor flickering. Frequency disruptor, Avon explained. Blocks the contract's energy. Crude but effective. She gestured to her men. Take them. Alive, preferably. But accidents happen. Troy's vision blurred from the pain, but his mind raced. Frequency disruption meant waves. Waves could be countered. The bond might be mystical, but it followed rules, patterns. Reyna, he ground out through clenched teeth. The energy, can you make it pulse? Like alternating current? She nodded, understanding flashing in her golden eyes. Together? Troy grabbed her hand. This time he didn't try to force the connection. He let it flow naturally, thinking of waves and frequencies, of opposing forces canceling each other out. Reyna's power surged, but instead of steady energy, it pulsed in rapid waves. The disruptor's whine faltered, then died with a shower of sparks. Now! Reyna's armor exploded with light. She spun, energy blast catching Ivan's men off guard. In the chaos, Troy noticed a maintenance ladder leading up. There, he pointed. Reyna nodded, laying down covering fire as they backed toward it. Avon was shouting orders, trying to reorganize her forces. Ladies first? Reyna smirked. Just climb! Troy pushed her toward the ladder. They scrambled up as bullets ricocheted around them. The access hatch at the top was locked, but one blast from Reyna solved that problem. They emerged in a deserted subway platform, alarmed commuters scattering at their appearance. Without breaking stride, Reyna scooped Troy up and launched them both onto the tracks. Please tell me you have a plan, Troy yelled as they ran through the tunnel, emergency lights flashing past. Working on it! Reyna's armor pulsed with readings. Incoming train in 40 seconds. What? We need to get off the tracks! Reyna's grin was visible even in the dim light. No, Master Troy. We need to time this perfectly. A train's horn blasted through the tunnel, headlights illuminating them from behind. Reyna's armor shifted, wrapping around Troy protectively. When I say jump, she shouted over the roar. Jump! The train bore down on them, impossibly fast. Behind them, Ivan's forces spilled onto the tracks. The thunder of the approaching train mixed with gunfire. Now! Troy jumped blindly. Reyna's arms locked around him as they leaped sideways. Her armor extended, catching the rushing air. For one terrifying moment, they were suspended beside the speeding train. Then Reyna twisted, landing them on the train's roof with impossible precision. They clung to the metal surface as the subway car thundered through the tunnel, leaving their pursuers far behind. That was... Troy had to catch his breath. Completely insane. But effective, Reyna's laugh carried even over the wind. The subway system is too complex for them to track us now. We've bought some time. Troy rolled onto his back, staring at the tunnel ceiling flashing past. Time for what? Reyna's expression turned serious. Time for me to teach you what you've really gotten yourself into, because Quantitech won't stop. And what I saw back there, the way you understood and adapted the contract's energy, it's unprecedented. Is that good or bad? Both. She shifted closer, her violet skin ethereal in the darkness. It means you have potential I've never seen in a bearer, but it also means they'll want you even more. The train began to slow, approaching another station. Reyna helped Troy to his feet. We'll need to keep moving. I know a place, a safe house of sorts. There, I can explain everything. Everything? Troy raised an eyebrow. Well, her golden eyes sparkled with that now familiar mix of danger and playfulness. Everything I'm allowed to tell you. Some secrets have to be earned, Master Troy. He sighed. Still with the Master, would you prefer my beloved bearer? Divine contractor? Most exalted one? Just Troy is still fine. As you wish, Master Troy. Before he could protest, she pulled him into another leap, this time onto a deserted platform. As they vanished into the city night, Troy reflected that his life had irrevocably changed. His ordinary world of engineering and job searches had been replaced by alien contracts, corporate conspiracies, and a violet-skinned warrior who seemed to delight in upending everything he thought he knew. And somehow, despite the danger and absurdity of it all, he couldn't bring himself to regret signing that contract. Raina's safe house turned out to be an abandoned telescope facility perched high in the mountains outside the city. The massive dome loomed against the pre-dawn sky as they approached, Raina's crystalline wings folding away. "Home, sweet temporary home," she announced, bypassing the security system with a touch. "At least until we figure out our next move." Troy followed her inside, taking in the dusty equipment and scattered papers. "Whose place is this?" "A previous potential bearer," Raina's voice softened. "She died before completing the contract." She quickly brightened, gesturing to a living area tucked behind the main observatory. "But she left it well stocked. Food, supplies, even a shower." "A shower sounds amazing right now." Troy was still soaked from their rainy escape. "Indeed it does," Raina purred, stepping closer. "The facilities are quite spacious. We could conserve water." Troy backed away, nearly tripping over a chair. "I'll shower alone, thanks." "Your loss, Master," she winked. "Though I should remind you that the contract requires close proximity for optimal protection." "I'll risk it." In the small bathroom, Troy finally had a moment to process the night's events. The hot water helped clear his head, but couldn't wash away the lingering sensation of the bond. Even now he could sense Raina's presence nearby, like a warm current in his mind. When he emerged wearing spare clothes he found in a drawer, Raina was preparing food in the kitchenette. She'd shifted her armor into something more casual, a form-fitting bodysuit that left little to the imagination. "You know," Troy said, trying to keep his eyes on her face, "that outfit seems designed to be distracting." "Everything I do is designed for maximum efficiency," she replied innocently. "If you find it distracting, perhaps we should explore why." Before Troy could respond, she handed him a plate of surprisingly normal-looking pasta. "Eat. You'll need your strength. Then we talk." They sat at a small table, the city lights twinkling far below through the observatory's windows. Troy took a bite, then stared at his plate in surprise. "This is actually good." "I contain multitudes, Master Troy." Raina watched him eat with evident satisfaction. "My purpose is to serve and protect you in all ways. That includes keeping you well fed." "About that," Troy set down his fork. "What exactly are the terms of this contract? The full version, not the sales pitch." Raina's playful demeanor faded slightly. "The contract is a binding agreement between bearer and guardian. I am bound to protect you, enhance your abilities, and fulfill your needs. In return, you provide the emotional and spiritual energy that powers my existence in this realm. And if I break it, then I cease to exist." She said it matter-of-factly, but Troy caught a flicker of fear in her golden eyes. "The contract is what anchors me here. Without it—" "I wouldn't do that to you," Troy said quickly, surprising himself with how much he meant it. Raina's smile returned, softer this time. "I know. It's one of the reasons you were chosen." "Chosen? I thought I just stumbled onto the contract by accident." "Nothing about this was accident." Raina stood, moving to the window. "I've been searching for you, Troy Marshall, for years, ever since that day in the rain." Troy joined her at the window, confusion clear on his face. "What day?" "You wouldn't remember. You were younger, just starting college. I was running, wounded. You found me collapsed in an alley." Her voice took on a distant quality. "Instead of calling authorities or running away, you gave me your umbrella and your lunch. And this—" She touched something at her neck, a simple silver pendant on a chain. Troy's breath caught. I lost that years ago. My mother gave it to me." "You didn't lose it. You gave it to me. Said it would bring me luck. Reyna turned to face him. That simple kindness saved my life and marked you as a potential bearer. Troy stared at the pendant, memories stirring. A rainy day, a strange figure huddled in an alley. He'd thought it was just a homeless person. That was you? But you looked human. I can alter my appearance when needed, but I was too weak that day to maintain the illusion. She touched the pendant gently. Your kindness gave me strength to escape my pursuers. I've been watching over you since then, waiting for the right moment. That's, Troy ran a hand through his hair. That's either incredibly touching or incredibly creepy. Reyna laughed. Perhaps a bit of both. Though I prefer to think of it as thorough background checking. She stepped closer, her violet skin seeming to glow in the dim light. I needed to be sure you were the right bearer. Someone with both the intelligence to understand the contract's power and the heart to use it wisely. And what if I'd never signed? Then I would have continued watching, protecting you from the shadows. Her golden eyes locked with his. But I'm glad you signed. The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken tension. Troy found himself acutely aware of her proximity, of the bond humming between them. Then a distant alarm shattered the silence. Reyna moved instantly, armor flowing back into combat configuration. Perimeter breach. Multiple vehicles approaching. Troy rushed to the window. Headlights wound up the mountain road. Black SUVs with a familiar corporate logo. Wait! Troy grabbed her arm. You said I was chosen for my intelligence, right? Then let me think. He ran to the observatory controls, mind racing. The facility's massive telescope was still operational, its motors humming as he powered it up. Whatever you're planning, make it quick, Reyna called from the window. They're almost here. Troy's fingers flew over the control panel. The telescope's tracking system uses electromagnetic pulses to maintain precision. If I can reverse the polarity. In English, Master? I'm turning it into a giant EMP device. It'll fry their vehicle's electronics. He looked up at her. But we'll need more power than the facility can provide. Reyna's smile turned predatory. That's what you have me for. She placed her hands on the control panel. Channel the bond. Direct my energy through the system. Troy closed his eyes, focusing on their connection. The warm current between them surged, becoming a torrent of power. He pictured it flowing through the telescope's circuits, building to a crescendo. Now! The telescope's dome crackled with purple lightning. A wave of energy pulsed outward just as the Quantatech vehicles reached the final curve. Their headlights flickered and died. Without power, the SUVs rolled to a stop, some sliding dangerously close to the mountain's edge. Impressive, Reyna approved. Though they'll have backup systems. Then we use the confusion to escape. Troy was already gathering essential supplies. There has to be a back way out of here. Through the maintenance tunnels, but Reyna hesitated. There's something you should know first, about why they want us so badly. Can it wait until we're not about to be captured? No, her expression was grave. Because it changes everything. My body, my very genetic code, contains encrypted data. Information that could give Quantatech control over entire civilizations. Troy stared at her. What kind of information? Access codes, weaknesses, the collected knowledge of 1,000 worlds. She met his gaze steadily. I'm not just a guardian, Troy. I'm a living weapon. And if they capture us, they'll tear me apart to get that data. A living weapon, Troy repeated as they hurried through the maintenance tunnel. Were you planning to mention this before or after they dissected you? I was saving it for our third date, Reyna quipped, her armor providing the only light in the darkness. Though technically, running for our lives together counts as romantic bonding in my culture. Despite the situation, Troy found himself smiling. And what else counts as romantic in your culture? Oh, many things. Engineering feats of brilliance, creative use of energy manipulation. She glanced back at him, golden eyes gleaming. Showering together for optimal protection. Still not happening. Your resistance only makes me more determined, Master Troy. She paused at a junction, checking for pursuit. Though I must say, your noble restraint is quite attractive. Most bearers would have already attempted to abuse the contract's physical compatibility features. Troy nearly tripped. The contract's what now? Oh yes, complete biological synchronization. Her voice turned teasing. Every aspect of me is designed to be compatible with my bearer. For protection purposes, of course. Of course, Troy muttered, grateful for the darkness hiding his blush. Can we focus on escaping? Multitasking is another of my many talents. But Raina's playful tone shifted to alert as voices echoed behind them. Company coming, and not the fun kind. They quickened their pace, the tunnel sloping steadily downward. Troy's mind raced with questions, but survival took priority. The bond thrummed between them, stronger now that he was learning to recognize it. There's more you're not telling me, he said as they emerged into a larger cavern. Old mining equipment littered the space. Many things. Raina began moving equipment, creating a barricade. Some you're not ready to hear, some I'm not ready to say. She paused, looking at him intently. And some that could get us both killed if said at the wrong time. Like why Quanta Tech wants your genetic data so badly? Among other things, she touched the pendant at her neck. The day you saved me, I was running from them even then. They discovered what I was, what I carried inside me. But they don't understand the full truth. Which is? Before she could answer, gunfire erupted from the tunnel. They dove behind the barricade as bullets sparked off metal. The truth, Raina shouted over the noise, is that the data isn't just stored in my genetics. It's bound to my soul. And my soul, she grabbed Troy's hand, energy crackling between them, is now bound to yours. The bond flared at her touch, filling Troy with that now familiar warmth. But there was something else, a deeper connection he was only beginning to understand. Looking into her golden eyes, he saw past the playful facade to something ancient and powerful. So if they want your data, he began, they'll need us both. She squeezed his hand. The contract didn't just make you my bearer, Troy. It made you part of me. Every flirtation, every touch, every moment we spend together strengthens that connection. Is that why you're always trying to get closer? Her smile turned both seductive and sad. Partially, but mostly because you're the first bearer who makes me want to. The moment shattered as an explosion rocked the cavern. Quanta Tech forces poured through multiple entrances, led by Director Ivan herself. How touching, Ivan's voice dripped with mockery, the alien weapon developing feelings. Though I suppose that was inevitable, given your programming. Programming? Troy looked at Raina, who had shifted into a defensive stance. Don't listen to her, Raina warned, but her voice held an edge of uncertainty. Ivan smiled coldly. Show him, Raina. Show him the truth about your homeworld, about why you really chose him. She held up a device that emitted a high-pitched whine. Raina clutched her head, golden eyes wide with pain. Images flickered around her like broken holograms. A dying planet, massive ships darkening the sky, millions of people screaming. Your world isn't just dying, Ivan continued. It's already dead. And you knew the only way to save your people was to find a bearer whose genetic code could unlock the salvation protocols hidden in your data. No, Raina gasped, but the images kept coming. Troy saw himself as a younger man, giving his pendant to a stranger. But now he saw more. Saw Raina scanning him, analyzing his DNA, marking him as a target. She chose you because your genetic structure is compatible with the ancient codes, Avon pressed. Everything else, the flirtation, the protection, the growing feelings, it's all programmed behavior designed to strengthen the bond until your DNA can be properly harvested. Troy felt the bond wavering, Raina's pain and confusion bleeding through. Is it true? Raina looked at him, tears in her golden eyes. I can't remember. Of course you can't, because those memories were locked away. But we can unlock them. We can save your people, Raina. All you have to do is surrender Troy to us. His DNA is the key. With it, we can restore your civilization. Troy watched Raina's face, saw the conflict raging behind her eyes. The bond between them flickered like a dying flame. My people, she whispered. All of them. Gone. But not forever, Avon pressed. Choose wisely, Reyna. One human life against millions of your own kind. The cavern fell silent except for the hum of Avon's device. Troy felt Reyna's grip on his hand loosening. Reyna, he said softly, look at me. She turned, tears streaming down her violet cheeks. The pendant, he touched it gently. You said it brought you luck, but that's not what my mother told me when she gave it to me. She said it would help me recognize truth from lies. And right now, he smiled, right now I recognize you. Troy, ... Maybe they're right. Maybe you did choose me for my DNA. Maybe some of what you feel is programming, but I know what I feel through this bond. And it's real. He squeezed her hand. Let me show you. Before Ivan could react, Troy pulled Reyna close and kissed her. Energy exploded between them, pure and unfiltered. The bond roared back to life, stronger than ever. Through it, memories flooded them both. Not the manipulated images Ivan showed, but true ones. Reyna saving a child on her world. Watching Troy from afar, not calculating his DNA but admiring his kindness. The real reason she chose him, not for genetics, but for his heart. They broke apart as Ivan's device overloaded, sparking uselessly. Reyna's armor blazed with power, her golden eyes clear and certain. Nice try, she told Ivan, energy crackling around her and Troy. But there's one thing your manipulation didn't account for. And what's that? Reyna's smile was fierce. I really hate being told what to do. The battle that followed was brief but spectacular. With their bond fully synchronized, Troy and Reyna moved as one. His strategic mind merged with her combat skills, creating a defense Ivan's forces couldn't penetrate. When it was over, Ivan lay unconscious, her troops scattered. We should go, Troy said, still holding Reyna's hand. They'll bring reinforcements. They will, she agreed. But first, she pulled him close again, her kiss less desperate this time, but no less powerful. Thank you for seeing through their lies. Thank you for being worth seeing. She laughed, the sound pure and real. Such a charmer. Though I hope you realize this means you can't deny our shower-sharing efficiency protocol anymore. We'll negotiate, Troy grinned, after we save the world. Hand in hand, they ran from the cavern, leaving Avon's failed manipulation behind. The bond hummed between them, stronger for having been tested. But as they emerged into the dawn, both knew this was just the beginning. The true nature of Reyna's data, the fate of her world, and the growing forces aligning against them would all have to be faced. But for now, they had each other. And sometimes that was enough. The massive alien warship materialized over the city at midnight, its hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Troy and Reyna watched from their latest hideout as the vessel descended through storm clouds, lightning playing across its surface. Well, Troy said, I guess Quantitech is done being subtle. That's an Obsidian-class warship. Reyna's voice held a mix of awe and dread. I never thought I'd see one again. They were the pride of my people's fleet. Before everything fell, before everything changed, she touched the pendant at her neck. The ship's presence explains a lot. Avon wasn't just after my genetic data. She wanted the command codes stored within it, codes that could activate that vessel's full potential. Troy studied the ship through borrowed binoculars. Can't you just, I don't know, tell it to self-destruct? If only. Reyna's armor shifted restlessly. The codes are encrypted, scattered through my genetic structure. Even I can't access them directly. That's why they needed your DNA to create a key. But now they have a workaround, Troy guessed. Something on that ship. A genetic reconstructor. It can force the codes from my body, though the process would... She hesitated. Kill you? Eventually. First it would hurt. A lot. She tried to smile, which would really ruin our shower plans. Troy reached for her hand, their bond humming to life at the contact. Not happening. We'll find another way. We could run, she suggested, though her tone made it clear she didn't mean it. Find a nice desert island. Work on your tan. Right, because you'd be satisfied with that. True, I'd get bored without regular combat and life-threatening situations. Her golden eyes sparkled. Plus, you'd miss saving the world. I'd miss you, Troy said simply. Reyna's playful expression softened. She leaned in, but before their lips could meet, the warship's engines pulsed. A wave of energy swept the city, and every electronic device went dark. They're isolating us, Reyna growled, cutting off communication and escape routes. Troy's engineer's mind was already racing. The ship's design, it's similar to your armor, isn't it? The same kind of energy manipulation? Similar principles, yes. Why? Because, he grinned, I think I know how we can get aboard. The infiltration of the warship proved surprisingly easy, almost too easy. As Troy and Reyna approached through her energy shield, the vessel's defenses simply welcomed them. Something's wrong, Reyna muttered as they landed in a pristine docking bay. The ship's AI is acting like it knows me. Isn't that good? Before she could answer, a holographic display sprang to life. The image showed a strikingly beautiful woman with the same violet skin as Reyna, though her eyes were silver rather than gold. Hello, daughter. Reyna stumbled back as if struck. Mother? But you died when our world fell. Died? The hologram laughed musically. Oh, my dear child, I orchestrated everything. The truth poured out like poison. How Reyna's mother, High Counselor Vestra, had sold their civilization's secrets to the highest bidders across the galaxy. How she'd encoded the most valuable data into her own daughter's genetic structure, creating the perfect living vault. Your father discovered my plan, Vestra continued. The fool tried to stop me, to save our people. His interference forced me to accelerate things. The chaos of our world's fall provided perfect cover. You destroyed our entire civilization, Reyna's voice shook with rage. Our people are safely preserved, waiting to be reborn under proper leadership. Vestra's smile turned cruel. Leadership that understands power matters more than outdated morality. Troy watched Reyna's face, feeling her pain and fury through their bond. He reached for her hand, but Avon stepped out of the shadows, training a weapon on them. I must admit, Avon said, working with your mother has been enlightening. Humans think so small, but Vestra, she understands true ambition. The contract, Troy realized. You arranged for Reyna to find me? Of course. Vestra's hologram approached them. The genetic key needed to be compatible. You were carefully selected, Troy Marshall. Though I didn't expect my daughter to develop actual feelings for you, how disappointingly sentimental. Actually, Reyna's voice had gone deadly calm. That was your mistake. She squeezed Troy's hand, and their bond exploded with power. The ship's systems responded instantly, recognizing Reyna's authority as absolute. What? Vestra's hologram flickered. That's impossible. The command codes, ... Were never just about genetics, Reyna smiled fiercely. They were about worthiness. Father knew what you'd done. His interference was making sure the ship would recognize true leadership. Leadership with heart, not just ambition. Kill them, Vestra screamed. Avon fired, but Reyna was faster. The ship itself seemed to protect them, barriers springing up, systems responding to Reyna's will through their strengthened bond. No, Vestra snarled, raising her own weapon. I won't let you ruin everything. The shot cracked out. Troy moved without thinking, pushing Reyna aside. Fire bloomed in his chest as the energy blast struck him instead of her. Troy! Reyna's scream of rage shook the entire ship. Systems overloaded as her power surged unchecked. Ivan was thrown back, unconscious. Vestra's hologram shattered. The last thing Troy saw before darkness took him was Reyna's face, tears falling from her golden eyes as she whispered, Hold on, my love. I know where we need to go. Troy woke to the sound of alien birds and the feeling of warm sunlight on his face. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. The air itself seemed to shimmer with impossible colors. Welcome back, Reyna's voice drew his attention. She sat beside his bed, still in her armor but looking more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. You had me worried. Where? His voice was rough. The healing world of Celestia. She helped him sit up, her touch lingering. Earth medical technology couldn't have saved you. But here, she gestured to the window where floating cities drifted through pink clouds. Here, they can fix anything. Troy took in the alien landscape, the advanced technology seamlessly blending with natural beauty. Your mother. Contained. The ship's systems recognized my claim as legitimate. Turns out being a decent person matters more than being a skilled manipulator. Her smile turned wicked. Plus, having an all-powerful warship helps with enforcement. So you're what, queen now? Actually, she settled onto the bed beside him. I'm the high guardian of the restored worlds. My people are being revived from stasis, our civilization rebuilding, and she traced a finger down his chest where the wound had been. I need a consort. Troy caught her hand. A consort? Mm-hmm. Her golden eyes sparkled with mischief. Someone to help rebuild our population. It's a very important diplomatic position requiring frequent negotiations. And I suppose you have someone in mind? Well, she pretended to consider. I do know this engineer. Bit stubborn, has a habit of jumping in front of energy blasts meant for me, but he's quite good at handling advanced technology. Troy pulled her closer. Sounds complicated. Oh, it is. She straddled his lap, armor shifting into something more casual. There are many, many responsibilities, including producing heirs. Lots of heirs. She leaned in, lips brushing his ear. I'm thinking at least a dozen. A dozen? To start with. She kissed him properly then, the bond between them singing with joy and possibility. When they parted, her smile was both tender and teasing. So what do you say, Daddy? Troy laughed, pulling her back down. I say we should start those negotiations immediately. Through the window, their warship hung in the rose-gold sky, a testament to the power of true connection over mere ambition. The artifact at Reyna's throat pulsed with new coordinates, new adventures waiting to be discovered. But for now, they had each other, a future to build, and all the time in the world to do it. Just one thing, Troy said between kisses. I'm still not sharing the shower. Reyna's laughter echoed through their new home, bright and full of promise. We'll see about that, Master Troy. We'll see. 5 years later, the grand ballroom of the Celestial Palace sparkled with starlight filtered through crystal domes. Dignitaries from 100 worlds mingled beneath floating chandeliers, celebrating the 5th anniversary of the restored world's renaissance. At the center of it all, Troy Marshall, now officially titled High Consort, but still preferring that engineer guy, watched his wife charm the assembled crowd. Reyna's violet skin gleamed in her formal armor, which somehow managed to be both regal and provocatively form-fitting. Your mate continues to impress, Ambassador Catal observed, his tentacles rippling with approval. Such wisdom in one so young. Don't let her hear you call her young, Troy advised. She's technically several centuries old if you count the stasis period. I heard that, Reyna's voice came through their bond, making him smile. She excused herself from her current conversation and glided over to join them. Discussing my age, beloved. Only your timeless beauty, my high guardian. Smooth talker. She wrapped an arm around his waist. But you're still on diaper duty tonight. The ambassador's optical sensors brightened with interest. Ah, yes, the twins. How are the young ones progressing? Progressing at destroying everything they touch, Troy said proudly. They've already figured out how to channel energy through the bond. Yesterday, they turned their entire nursery purple. Just like their mother, Reyna beamed. Though their father's engineering genius is definitely showing, this morning they nearly rewired the palace's environmental controls. At 6 months old? Catal sounded impressed. Hybrid vigor, Troy shrugged. Plus, they have their mother's overachieving nature. Speaking of overachieving, Reyna's golden eyes gleamed dangerously. I was thinking it's time to start working on numbers 3 and 4. Troy choked on his drink. Already? A dozen was the agreement, remember? She pressed closer, sending sparks of energy through their bond. Unless you're not up for the challenge? If you'll excuse us, Ambassador, Troy said quickly, diplomatic matters require our immediate attention. Catal's tentacles rippled with amusement as the High Guardian and her consort made a barely dignified exit. Their legendary love story had become the stuff of ballads across the restored civilization, though most versions left out the part about the shower negotiations, which Reyna had eventually won. In the palace's private wing, their twins slept peacefully in their purple nursery, watched over by the most advanced AI systems in the galaxy. On the bedside table, Reyna's pendant pulsed with new coordinates, promising future adventures. And in the distance, their warship stood guard, a reminder that true power came not from ambition or manipulation, but from the simple choice to protect what you love. So, Reyna purred as they reached their chambers, about those negotiations. I thought we were past negotiating. Troy pulled her close. Oh, we are. Her armor shifted away as she pushed him toward their bed. Now it's just terms of surrender. Their laughter echoed through the palace, a sound of joy and promise and forever. And if the environmental controls turned everything purple again, well, that was just part of the adventure.